Last time on the Skip and Josh podcast.
Before we get to our lists, I want to let the listeners know about the criteria and the stipulations involved in composing this list.
Well, you texted me like there's parameters. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, there's parameters. There are only two parameters. The
parameters is it has to be a song. That's where your parameters are.
It has to be a song, but also it has to be a song that you can find either on YouTube or Spotify or something like that. Because there were some songs that I wanted to put on the list that I cannot find anywhere.
But what kind of songs are they? Like nursery rhymes? What are you talking about?
You'll see in a minute.
You're listening to the Skip and Josh podcast with Skip Sherman and Josh Obadia.
So, Skip, I want to let the listeners know that we're doing a special episode today.
Yes, finally.
We are going to be talking solely about one topic on this episode, and that will be the entire 6 seasons of The Americans.
Oh, we're talking about all 6 seasons?
Well, I mean, we're going to talk about the show as a whole. You know, you can talk about shows from whatever season you want to talk about. But now that the show is over and we've both seen all the episodes, now we can actually talk about it because you and I haven't really talked about it.
No. I mean, people, the listeners know, like, we're both fans of the show. We've talked about it for the last, on and off for 100 episodes. We've mentioned it, I don't know how many times, 1,000,000 times. And finally, the show did come to its conclusion. And now Josh has finally watched all the episodes. So we're free to give spoilers.
Spoilers!
Yeah, so if you haven't seen the show, then don't listen to this episode.
No, and if you haven't seen the show, go back and watch from the beginning. I'm always amazed that this show doesn't get the attention it deserves, I find. Whenever you start talking to people about like TV shows and Netflix and binge watching stuff, it's like no one is like, "Oh, The Americans, is that good?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's good. It's amazing."
It's because it's on FX and most people don't have FX. That's why. It's not on Netflix, it's not on HBO, and it's not on network television, so that's why.
Yeah. People in Canada, I agree. In Canada, it was hard to find. Like, it's hard to find it. Like, I don't want to give things away, but I had to download it in a, sort of a gray market, right? But I have plenty of American friends who like have access to it. Again, maybe you're right. Maybe they don't have FX, but that being said, let's get into it. So, like, how did you like the finale and the way it ended?
So first of all, I have to say I'm very sad actually, because ever since the show ended. And now that I know that, obviously I knew before this season that it was the last season, ever since it ended, I feel I actually feel a void in my life.
I felt the same. Like, it was over. Like, the drama of what happened was over. They made it to Russia. Like, the ending dragged out for a little bit, right? Mm-hmm. Like, just to sort of show you, like, things were going to be settling in and whatever, that they made it and all this. And I was like, wow, it's over. It's really over. I was like, it's over. There's not going to be any more episodes now. What am I going to do? Is that really it? Like, not that I was disappointed with the ending. I liked the ending, but I wanted it to keep going.
I wanted to keep going because I feel like part of the family. And I'm sure you felt the same way as me, even though they were Russian spies and they're supposedly the bad guys.
Yeah.
You were rooting for them to do well.
Well, I mean, that's a classic writing technique, which they did perfectly in this show, which is like the anti-hero, You're supposed to not like them, but you do, right? You do. Although Elizabeth, I mean, that's the extreme, right? Because how do you like her? She's a cold-hearted killer.
Well, in the last season, yes, she was.
She killed someone in every episode the last season.
In the last season, but she did have... First of all, in previous seasons, she, I think, had a bit of a conscience, and certainly in the last episode, she did.
A bit. Yeah, like thinking back to that, I mean, certainly she did her share of killing people.
Yes.
Much more than Philip.
But listen, but even her, at the end, when she was told to go kill that Russian guy, she didn't kill him. And in fact, she did the opposite. She killed someone who was going to kill him. So
I
she
don't know
did come to
I
her
don't know
senses.
if it's because she got a conscience at the end, or it's because she sort of felt like betrayed by her own country. Like something. Think about it. Who is like more of a true believer than Elizabeth? Right? She was a true believer in Russia. Everything was for Mother Russia. I'm doing this to make our homeland better. I'm doing this so that everybody at home is going to be safe. Like, how many times did you hear her say that, right? Everything she did was for her homeland. And then, I mean, we saw it leading up in season 6, but like her homeland sort of betrayed her, right? The people, she didn't know who to trust anymore. And then she finally listened to Philip when he was saying, like, you got to trust yourself. You know, I know we just take orders and we execute them. We do what the orders say, what they tell us to do. But that's not good enough anymore, right? Because you don't know what's going on in Russia. I remember I told you I didn't like season 5.
Yeah, you did. I remember.
But after season 6, I got a little bit more of an appreciation for season 5 because they were sort of showing us, you know, things weren't good in Russia, you know?
Right.
They were showing us sort of leading up to the fact that like they're going to have a crisis of conscience about, you know, the orders that they're receiving. I still don't like season 5 because it was sloppy. You know, it was told in a lazy way by the show creators. Like there's one thing that I just can't stand about that season is we hadn't seen Kimmy for the whole season. And maybe even the whole season before. I don't even remember.
Yeah.
The story with Kimmy was long gone. They took us through season 5 with the wheat. You know, the wheat, the special wheat.
Yeah.
And then their fake son, the Cambodian boat kid.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The kid who was the Russian kid who's going to commit suicide. That whole story. That's what they told us in all season 5. That's what it focused on.
Right.
The last season... 5 minutes to go in the last episode of season 5. 5 minutes to go. Oh yeah, I got the tape from Kimmy's house. Her father's becoming the head of Russian affairs at the FBI, the CIA now. We have to stay. It's like, what? You know what? What do you mean? You didn't talk about Kimmy for 10 episodes. All of a sudden in the last 5 minutes, it's like that's the most major plot point, right? It just like I was like, I don't understand how they did that. You know, like
speaking of Kimmy, what I found interesting was. I don't know if it was the second to last episode of the last season or maybe the third to last episode where he actually calls Kimmy and tells her, never mind that I can't go with you on the trip, whatever, but tells her...
Don't go to a communist country.
Right. So like that's the first and only time that he, I guess, let down his guard. Not that, I mean, it was over the phone so she couldn't see who he was. And I'm sure she had no clue what he was talking about.
No clue.
But I mean, he was basically going against... everything that he'd been taught and instructed.
Yeah. Well, in season 6 up to the end, let's keep the last episode or two aside for a second. But like as Elizabeth was getting more resolved in like her job and how important it was for the summit and everything she was going to do, she was getting more focused on it. Philip was becoming much more had like a bigger crisis of conscience.
Well, he wasn't even involved. He was just running the travel agency and he wasn't even working as a spy anymore. He just did like one or two things for Elizabeth because she needed help. He was still passing
the messages with Oleg and then Kimmy. He said he was going to help with Kimmy and, you know.
But he didn't want to.
No, he didn't want to. He did it for her.
Yeah. I mean, it's your wife, whatever.
Yeah. But how did you like the ending? Like... last episode.
So, I mean, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know. I mean, going back before the ending, I think the episode before where I'm not sure if it's the beginning of the last episode or the end of the previous episode where Phil is in disguise and he's talking to the priest in the park and he realizes that he's probably being watched.
Oh, yeah.
And then he starts to run, which is a behavior you had never seen in the first 5.5 episodes.
You've never... I mean, there's one time back in like season 2 or something, and they mention it. Adderholt mentions it at one point to Stan. They almost caught Elizabeth.
Not knowing that it was Elizabeth.
Like, but they almost caught her way back,
right.
Like in season 2 or something, right? But like, you've never seen Philip just get up and run. And the FBI guys were running after him.
Yeah.
Meaning like, if he's caught, he's caught.
Yeah.
You know? this is it, you know? Like, they've never been in a sticky situation like that. They've always managed to sort of slip away, or, you know, like blend into the night and disappear, you know, and go back home to suburbia.
And what's the neighbor's name again? I keep forgetting his name.
Stan,
right. Stan Beeman.
Yeah.
So
Stan Beeman.
It's interesting because I think in season 1, he's suspicious of them. And then he forgets about it. He's like, no, I'm wrong, whatever. And then
season one, he moves in and he is suspicious of them. He goes into their garage.
Yeah. Exactly.
And then for 5 seasons, he's their best friend. It's like, oh yeah, forget about it. And then all of a sudden in season 6, he wakes up and he's like, yeah, remember when I suspected them? Maybe I was right.
Right. And then he puts pieces together, like this whole thing was happening in Chicago, and all of a sudden Elizabeth has to go to Houston, but not really Houston.
It's a red flag. I mean, Thanksgiving, all of a sudden Elizabeth's like, oh yeah, Elizabeth had to go to Houston on Thanksgiving. Like, they're travel agents. What kind of travel emergency do you have that makes you fly out to talk to a client on Thanksgiving?
And also they were coming home like at crazy hours of the night. You know, you're a travel agent. Okay, you might have to work late, but that means like what, 10 o'clock at night, not 3 in the morning.
Yeah. Well, the cool thing for Elizabeth in the season 6 is that their son was at boarding school, and Paige moved out. And Philip was like always at work, whatever.
Yeah.
So now Elizabeth could work 24 hours a day.
Yeah, exactly. She
like,
didn't have to hide it.
When I say work, I mean spy. You know,
Right.
like she can do her missions like without restrictions. Like, she doesn't have to pretend to come home.
Not only that, Paige was involved.
Paige was involved. Yeah.
Right. So she didn't have to hide it from anyone. By the way, the scene that I loved was when Stan Beeman calls, what's his name? Father what again? The priest?
Oh, the priest, Pastor Tim.
Pastor Tim. Yes, sorry. When Stan Beeman calls Pastor Tim, I'm like, oh my God, is Pastor Tim going to spill the beans? Because he's the only one that actually knows. And like, I can't believe that he did not open his mouth to anybody.
Well, there's 2 reasons why he never opened his mouth, right? First of all, he was scared of them.
Okay.
Right? Because you don't know what could happen to him, his family, whatever. But above all that, it's because of his kind of love for Paige, right? He knows that by turning them in, that's going to really hurt Paige, you know?
Right.
And he doesn't even know Paige is part of it now. Like, well, you know, like what the hell, right?
Well, no,
he
doesn't know that she's part of it, but he knows that she knows that they're spies now.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of and I mean, obviously you're saying like the best scene of like season 6 is that when Stan confronts them in the garage.
Oh, I was going to get to that. I was definitely going to get to that.
That's like everything leading up to this one part. And then all of a sudden they're there. And as soon as he confronts them in the garage, I told you I was watching with my wife, right?
Yeah.
And now up till then, Elizabeth has killed someone in every single episode. Right?
Yeah.
Every episode she's killing people. He confronts them in the garage, and then I'm like, oh my God, Stan's dead. She's going to kill him right now.
No, because he was smart. First of all, he had his gun drawn, and secondly, he made sure that he kept a good distance from them. Yeah,
but I don't think having your gun drawn, Elizabeth could take him out.
Not if he pulled the trigger. That other guy that she killed in the park, he had a gun. He took too long to use it.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, my God, he's dead. But then Elizabeth, she just like kept calm, didn't say anything. She actually didn't say very much during that whole scene. It was mostly Philip.
Right.
You know, kind of pleading with him. And
well, first they were trying to lie to him, and they could have got away with it, actually.
Well, there's no way that they're getting past the lie, because at that point he had like the composite drawing, of them.
Not yet. He didn't have it yet.
Not yet? Okay.
He had not seen it yet.
Right.
So he was basically still guessing. Like, he thought he was right, but he didn't know for sure that he was right.
Yeah.
And then
he let them go. I mean, you kind of knew he would, but
I didn't know that he was going to let them go. Like, I couldn't believe it.
You didn't think that the show was going to end with them being arrested, did you?
I thought before that whole thing, it was going to end with them admitting that they were spies, like turning themselves in and agreeing to be double agents or whatever you call it.
I thought that too. I thought 2 seasons ago, I thought, I even told this to a few people who watched the show, a good twist would be that they feel betrayed by the KGB or the center or whatever they call them, right? And they start to realize that what the KGB is asking them to do is wrong. And they approach Stan to say they admit everything and become kind of double agents, because the theme of like the double agents was happening throughout the series, right? I mean,
but
hockey player and the woman who Elizabeth killed, right? And then of course the most famous one is Nina.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But the more I thought about it, that wouldn't have worked, because even though they were spies, they were never given any information. They were just told to do assignments, and they were never told the reason why. So they wouldn't really be very valuable to the Americans, like the real Americans.
Yeah, no, you're right, because they have limited information.
Exactly.
Right? They get a job and they go do it.
Exactly. So
yeah.
So I didn't expect it to end that way. A few other things that I liked about the last episode. I liked, first of all, that they go to Montreal.
Well, yeah, and it's and did you notice, like, when they were? Oh well, I mean, the train station where Paige leaves the train.
Yeah, Rouse's Point.
Right? Rouse's Point. Like, that doesn't mean anything to any American viewers that are watching the show. It probably, no one knows where that is. But people who live in New York State and people who live in Quebec know what Rouse's Point is. It's basically like the first little town when you cross the border in New York State. It's right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the fact that they were sitting apart from each other was brilliant. I didn't even consider that.
Yeah.
And then when they come on, like the border control comes onto the train, and he's got the drawing right there. How do you not tell that it's the same person? I get that they're wearing disguises, but your disguise can only be so good.
It's true. I thought they're going to get caught. And what I did think was going to happen, I thought that they're going to question Paige.
Well, when I first saw her on the platform, I thought, wow, they arrested her and only her.
And then you realize
But then
that
I realized,
she's
oh
leaving
no,
them.
she got off the train on her own free will.
Yeah.
It makes sense to me that she got off the train because she's never lived in Russia. She would hate it in Russia. She grew up as an American. Even though her parents are Russian, she's an American girl.
Also, she felt bad that they left her brother behind, and I think she felt like she needed to go take care of him.
Well, I don't know if she's going to be able to do. See, this is why I would like there to be more episodes or another season, because can she go talk to her brother? Like, what's she going to do now? I mean, technically, she hasn't done anything wrong, technically.
Well, technically, but I mean...
Like, she shouldn't be arrested. First of all, she's under 18.
She did spy for Russia against the United States.
She did things for her mom, but I mean, she didn't kill anybody.
No, she didn't kill anybody, but she assisted in, like, the flow of information, I guess.
So what do you do to a person like that?
It's espionage. It's like it's a crime for sure.
But they have no proof of her doing anything.
They probably don't have proof. You're absolutely right. You're right. Absolutely right. I mean, at the end, right? Like, Stan goes to the boarding school and he tells. Sorry, what?
Matthew.
What's his name?
Is it Matthew?
No, not Matthew.
Matthew's his son. Yeah.
What's his son's name?
I forget the kid's name.
He goes to the boarding school and he tells the son, like, you don't actually hear what he says. Like, they don't show you the conversation.
Yeah, that bothered me. I would like to have heard that conversation.
You just
his
see
name
he
is
puts his arm around
Henry
him.
Jennings. It's Henry Jennings.
Henry. Yeah, so you just see he puts his arm around Henry and he's kind of telling him, like, something. I don't know. What is he supposed to say? Your parents are spies? Like, I'm not sure what he's telling him there, but
I would have liked to have heard that conversation. Another conversation I would have liked to have heard was the conversation that Stan had with the girl that's living with him, his girlfriend. Well, that was so stupid, right? Like, because if she is a spy, I would like to have heard her reaction when he told her that they were spies. But we'll never know, right? No, but this is why there can be another season. This is what I'm saying. There's so many unanswered questions. But it's so strange that they put her in the show, right? Because she had such a small part. But actually, it was really important at the end because it's really like, I mean, first of all, there's no way her and Stan can stay married. There's no way. Well, because he doesn't trust her.
Well, like he's not gonna trust her. Like it's gonna like ruin their relationship, right?
Right.
So in a way, Philip was thinking that he's doing Stan a big favor by telling him, "Oh yeah, by the way, Renee, we're not sure if she's one of us." He basically ruined his life by telling him.
I know, but he is doing her a favor. He was
being honest with him.
I should say.
Yeah, he's being honest with him. But basically, he's screwing with him. Now it's like, what is Stan gonna do? But yes, there could easily be a spinoff when you could see what happens with Stan and Renee. And we could see what happens with
Paige and with Henry.
It would be interesting if they did a spin-off that takes place like 10 years later.
That's what I'm saying.
Or maybe many years later, and like what happens to them, Does Paige keep trying to be a spy, or does she try to work for the State Department like her mother asked her to? Or
Paige can't work for the State Department if they think she's a spy.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, the show, I believe the show was taking place in like 87 at that point,
yeah,
right?
Okay.
And like in 1990, the Berlin Wall came down, or 89, 90, right?
Mm-hmm.
So and then, communism started to fall in Russia, and you had all the glasnost and perestroika and the reforms in Russia with Gorbachev and all this. So at a certain point, in the not so distant future, Paige would have been able to go see her parents in Russia.
I guess. And they were even talking about that when they were deciding what to do. Like how they were saying that maybe...
at one point, they'll be allowed to come.
They were saying Philip was even considering staying behind and not going.
Yeah. Well, Philip liked it in America.
Yeah, he did. Few other things I want to talk about the last episode. I love that when she went down to the basement and got the stash of passports and cash.
Yeah.
You saw Canadian passports and Canadian money. That was funny.
Yeah, that was good.
And the other thing, Paige, she goes back to that apartment where the source, I don't know that woman's name, the old lady.
Yeah, their handler.
Right.
Yeah, whatever her name is.
She goes back to that apartment.
It's gone.
No. Well, the apartment's there. But
no, but like she's gone.
She's gone. So like...
She realizes like her parents are gone. She can't go to see her brother because everyone's watching. So she goes to this apartment where she feels it's going to be safe for her to go. And now at that moment, she realizes she's on her own.
I was thinking, is she going to try and get in touch with Pastor Tim?
Well, it's not far-fetched because Pastor Tim is the only one she can really trust.
Right.
Right?
Who won't turn her in.
But at the same time, I think she's done with Pastor Tim, like, I don't know. It's amazing to speculate, like, what could happen, really, right?
Yeah.
But, when Paige gets off the train and then you see her face, you see the Elizabeth and Philip's face when they realize she's not going with them. Mm-hmm. Wow. I didn't see that coming at all.
No, I didn't see that coming at all either. That was a very good ending.
Yeah.
It was interesting when they stop at McDonald's.
Because Philip always liked McDonald's.
Oh, is that why?
I think
they
so.
focused on
it.
the McDonald's for a long period of time. Usually when like you'll see somewhere they're going, you catch a glimpse of it for a second and that's it. But here, like they made it blatant that they were going to McDonald's and they spent a lot of time focusing on that.
They focused on it. Yeah.
It was pretty interesting.
I was thinking the same thing. I was like, wow, McDonald's is so important. I guess McDonald's sort of kind of like represents America, so to speak,
I mean, they eventually opened up a McDonald's in Russia.
Yeah, 10 years later, there was probably McDonald's in Russia.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was actually opened up by Mark Cohan's dad.
Mark Cohan, the ex-commissioner of the CFL?
Yeah, his dad, George Cohan, opened the first McDonald's in Canada and also opened the first McDonald's in Russia, I think.
Oh, I didn't know that. I mean, I know you told me that he owned like many of the McDonald's franchises in Canada, right?
Well, the first one. I don't know about how many.
But like, I think he owned like a good portion of them, or at least in Ontario anyways.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So like going back, like how well do you remember like seasons 1 to 5 or 1 to 4? Like I feel like there's two stories like that were so good that feel like so long ago, almost like a different show, which is the Nina story.
Yes, that was a good story.
And then Martha.
That was a good story too.
Yeah. For like 2 seasons, he was going on and on with this charade with Martha, right? And then like stringing her along and then eventually taking the step of like getting married because that was the only way he could like keep the charade going, you know?
Insane.
So like they had like a fake wedding, and then like at a certain point, like he had feelings for Martha. And you know, that episode where he takes off his wig.
I was so surprised he did that. He didn't have to do that.
It was shocking. It was shocking. And the story is so good because it's like she doesn't want to know. She knows what's happening, but she doesn't want to know. And she never talks about it directly, right? She just sort of like, she's still so in love with him that she's like, I'm going to go with this. You know, I'm going to keep going along with this because I love him too much, even if he's not who he says he is, you know?
Right.
And then, you know, when they ship Martha off to Russia in the plane in the middle of the night
Yeah.
it's heartbreaking, you know?
It is.
It's heartbreaking.
Okay.
And then
go ahead.
And then the Nina story. Okay, first of all, Nina was crazy hot.
Yes, she was.
Let's just establish that. So it's not a coincidence that every man she ever met fell in love with her, right? In the show, right? So she knew it, and she made men fall in love with her, and that's how she was able to stay alive all that time. But that episode where, you know, after getting out of one sticky situation after another in the United States with the FBI and then with the KGB and then just when you think she's like they're gonna execute her, or who knows what they're gonna do to her, she wiggles her way out and they give her this side mission to become friends with the scientist, remember? Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden it's like they say come with us, they bring her down to the basement, and without any warning, bang, she's dead. They shoot her in the head. Like without warning the viewers, you know? Mm-hmm. Like they didn't even give us time to prepare like that was going to happen. I was sitting in front of the TV like shaking. Like what just happened, you know?
So my comments on the show in general, they didn't often use music in the show, very rarely. But when they did, they always picked like the perfect song.
There was usually like one episode a season where the music was really important. And in season 6, they used it a little bit more.
In season 6, they used, like, I think in the last episode, they used music a lot. But I remember the first episode of season 1, they used a Fleetwood Mac song where they're like literally running down the street in the middle of the night being chased or chasing somebody. I don't remember exactly what had happened. And like, it was
they really had a point of like, They had a certain style of music that they used to pick also. Yes. So, for instance, like Peter Gabriel, Here Comes the Flood.
Okay. I don't
Do you remember this?
No.
Oh, my God. It was so powerful. And then they kind of went with this like 80s punk, semi-punk a few times, different songs, you know? And then the very powerful piece of music was the opening of season 6. There was no talking for 5 minutes as they played Crowded House. Don't Dream It's Over.
Yeah.
Right?
It was great.
That was just like a beautiful musical montage.
I loved it.
No speaking, and the whole song played, and it was like, whoa, okay. Right? And then the song that they ended with, I don't know if you know that song the show sort of ended with, was Dire Straits, Brothers in Arms.
Oh, yeah, I know that song, of course.
Yeah. So that was also a really great choice of music.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, you're right. They didn't often use music, but when they did,
it was perfect.
It was good. Yeah,
it was perfect.
It was good. It's so weird, right? You think of like season 1, episode 1, like, boy, did things change.
It started off with a bang. Like the first scene of the first episode was like, okay, I'm hooked on this show already. Like I'm only 3 minutes in.
But there was a lot more action sequences in the first couple seasons.
That's right. There was. You're absolutely right.
And then as I think they realized that they had an audience and they knew they were going to be renewed, and I think the writers and the producers sort of took a different approach, and they tried to make it, I mean, the last few seasons were really about family, you know, the family.
Yeah, the last couple of seasons were a little different, but still good.
Yeah, no, just taking their time to tell the story, you know.
In the last episode, the next day, like, you know, Philip and Elizabeth are long gone. They have no idea. Like, the authorities have no idea, but they're long gone.
Yeah.
And Paige is, like, sitting in some empty apartment, and Stan is, like, telling Henry what the whole situation is.
Yeah.
And then you see the scene at the Jennings house where they're like literally cleaning it out.
Yeah.
And they're not going to find anything, I don't think, because anything that was important was hidden or burned or
The
whatever.
only thing they could find is the secret safe where she took the papers.
Right, but
To
she
know that
took
there
all
was
the important stuff
Yeah,
with
but
her.
just that there is a secret door there.
Right.
That-
So,
yeah, you're right.
so, but
I mean, they made the point of showing you. Sorry to interrupt you. They made the point of showing at some point in season 6, they made Russian food at the apartment with their handler.
Yeah.
Paige, Elizabeth, and the older woman. They made Russian food,
Mm-hmm.
and Elizabeth made the point of like, we can't bring this into the house.
right, and she brought it in, and he
Right.
didn't need it, and so she had to shove
Yeah.
it down the carburetor.
But like, they didn't want to. She didn't even want to bring anything to do with Russia in the house at all.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So, but what I was curious to find out is like, I have all these questions, things that they didn't show, like the conversation with Henry. I would like to have heard it. The conversation that Stan had with his girlfriend. I would have liked to have heard that.
Especially he says something to her, like he whispers something.
Yeah.
Like,
But the other thing that I'm curious about, and maybe no one even cares about this. Well, two things. One, remember when Stan had to, not Stan, when Philip had to fire a couple of employees because the
Yeah.
business was, and so then he goes
Stavros.
he goes to Stavros' apartment and he apologizes to him, and then Stavros
yeah.
says, I haven't told anybody about the illegal stuff that you guys do.
Yeah, he sort of said, I know that something was going on in the back room, you know?
But like, what does he know?
I don't think... Yeah, you're right.
Because he can't
You don't
know
know.
what they're doing. And if he did, he would have said
He
something.
probably thinks that the travel agency was like a front for some kind of illegal operation.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think like the idea that they're Russian spies would ever even cross his mind.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
That it's like that's the whole point of having them the way they are, like this American couple.
Right.
You know?
So the thing I'm curious to know is what happens to the travel agency now? Because it's a legitimate business. I mean, the owners are nowhere to be found, but like people have purchased flights and vacations, and like, can the company continue to exist?
No. I'm sure if Philip and Elizabeth Jennings were actually the owners of the travel agency, which I'm assuming they were, then the whole thing is going to be like seized. It's like evidence.
But they're not going to find anything there either.
No, I know they're not going to find anything, but
What I also found interesting is that just after they, I think, left the McDonald's before they got on the train, they went to like some forest and they buried a bunch of stuff in the ground, like some passports and whatever.
Yeah.
And I was a little surprised. Like, why would you get rid of that? You might need that later on.
Why didn't they just burn the stuff if they wanted to get rid of it? I wasn't
Well, that
sure
too.
about
That
either.
too.
But they also had to dig up. They dug up stuff that they wanted, right?
Really? I
Like,
don't
they had
think
stu-
so.
No,
I think they
thought
only
had
buried stuff
buried there that they were taking as well.
No, I think they
Or maybe
only. I
not.
think they buried some other passports because I guess they didn't want to be caught with multiple passports from multiple countries on them. So they had to keep the Canadian ones and ditch all the others.
Yeah,
I guess is what it was.
I guess. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that they don't really explain to you. I mean, like all throughout this many seasons, there's stuff that they never explain to you.
Yes, exactly.
Like season 5 just starts, and then all of a sudden, like he's an airline pilot, she's a stewardess, and they have a teenage son that they've adopted from Cambodia. You don't even know what the hell the story's about.
And by the way, in this past season, she was taking care of this woman who died eventually. Like
Yeah.
she was a fake nurse
Yeah,
because the woman's husband was somebody important, but I don't even know who that guy was.
he was like on the negotiating team of the summit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, but they don't tell you anything. You have to figure
You
everything
know, it was
out.
a heartbreaking scene when she gave her that huge painting.
Yeah. Well, she said
And then
pick.
she takes it, right? And that's where you kind of see, like, is Elizabeth, like, how hardcore is she? Because she was going to keep it.
But then she realized she had to get rid of it.
And then she, Philip would have kept it.
I don't know because if it's found, then you realize, oh, you were not.
It could lead to something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, now and
She
the fact
was
that they,
like, she was going to keep it. I thought, oh my God, she's going to keep it. And then the next thing you know, she couldn't.
the fact that they ended up leaving the country, it didn't matter if she kept it or not.
No, I know.
But
I know.
had they stayed, then yes, she has to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I could probably keep talking about this for days and days and days, but at some point we have to stop.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, I love the show. I miss it. And hopefully, I mean, it's never going to come back, but They'll never do like a reboot or a. I don't think we'll never know what happened to Paige.
We'll never know what happened to Henry.
No, Henry probably became like a NHL player.
Yeah, he was a good hockey player as a kid.
Or he probably got a hockey scholarship and he played hockey at
Clarkson
University of New Hampshire or something. Paige probably got a job in the State Department. Paige is like a true believer, not in a like the way her mother is, and like she believes in Mother Russia. Mm-hmm. But Paige is like someone who like wants to do good for the world.
Yeah,
she wants to help people.
And the truth is, the only reason she ended up believing in Russia is because that's what her mother fed her. Yeah,
her mother told her we're helping people, the things we're doing are good.
Like if you rewind to before Paige knew anything, she was she loved America.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So I mean, this is why I don't think that she should be punished. Really, I mean, if they ever catch her, which I mean, I'm assuming she's gonna have to leave the apartment at some point to go get food.
She can't live in Washington, can she?
Well, I mean, anywhere in the States, really. Does it matter?
Well, no, but like Washington specifically, because like Stan is there, like people know her. Like,
yeah, but her picture is out there. She can't live anywhere in the States.
No, you're right. Her picture's out there. So I don't know, unless she goes and lives somewhere in small town.
By the way, one little thing, and no one's gonna care about this, but when Stan catches him in the parking garage. And he's like, where are you guys going? Why did you pick up Paige? And she's like, oh, I'm not feeling well and they're taking me home, right?
Yeah.
And that was not the right lie. There was a better lie they could have used.
Which was?
They came to get Paige and they're celebrating for whatever. She just got a good grade on one of her exams and we're taking her out to dinner to celebrate.
We're going out for dinner and we came to pick her up.
Yeah, that would have been so much more believable than, oh, I'm not feeling well. They're coming to take me home.
Or we're going to visit Henry, so we're starting to drive now and we're staying,
Anyhow,
there's a lot of things they could have made up.
I think the writers intentionally made it a bad lie so that he would catch them in it.
I guess, yeah.
But there were better lies you could have made up.
I should rewatch the whole thing from the beginning.
I should do the same. It's going to take a while though.
Because season 1 and 2 are like such a blur. It's like I don't remember.
It's a long time ago.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's The Americans.
I love talking about it. Thanks.
I'm glad you finally watched the end.
Yeah, I couldn't wait. I watched it like a week ago, and that's why I've been waiting a whole week to talk about it.
Right. Beautiful. All right, so remember, you got to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play to make sure you never miss an episode of the Skip and Josh podcast. You can find us anywhere you find podcasts. And if you listen on Apple Podcasts, make sure you give us a review. Tell us what you think about The Americans. Send us an email, skipandjoshshow@gmail.com, Twitter @skipandjosh, or on our Facebook page. What are your theories about... we'd love to hear some listeners' theories about what happens to Paige, what happens to Henry. Do Paige and Elizabeth ever see their kid? Do Paige and Philip ever see their kids again? That type of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. What do they do when they go back to Russia? I mean, I don't really care, but like it seems like... They tried to make us care about that, and they didn't really...
I wonder if they're going to have dinner with Martha.
They don't even... Oh, Martha. My God, you think Philip will see Martha again? Oh, my God, imagine. All right, Josh.
All right.
I'll talk to you next time.
The Skip and Josh podcast is over now. Don't worry, there'll be another episode soon.